creative industries have emerged as one of the leading sectors in the economy.
Starting up a small recording studio in my dad's garage is all it took.
My story was more like experimenting with a variety of flavors, baking cupcakes, brownies, donuts.
Breakthroughs are usually when you find a new way to do something.
Oh well, me and my sister set up a fashion label because we just couldn't find what we wanted in shops.
Breaking rules and great stories start with how you dare to do things differently.
So, how do you start and sustain a business?
All these and more as Africa's Global Bank, UBA, presents Mind Your Own Business, a radio program designed to initialize, educate, and motivate young entrepreneurs emerging as strong players in the local and global economy. Stay tuned for Mind Your Own Business, proudly brought to you by UBA, Africa's Global Bank.
This is Mind Your Own Business, brought to you by UBA, Africa's Global Bank.
Good morning, you're listening to Mind Your Own Business, brought to you by UBA, Africa's Global Bank. I'm Wole Famirewa, and thank you for listening this morning. Of course, we bring you the stories of entrepreneurs that are doing incredible things in Nigeria. It's a tough environment, but they are finding a way to move ahead. And on our show today, we bring you the story of someone who has made the successful transition from banking into oil and gas. He also owns a restaurant. Joining us today is Okey Okatta. He is the CEO of Coos Oil and Gas and also the CEO of Elis Restaurant and Lounge. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. So tell us your story. Ex-banker, now the CEO of an oil and gas company. Tell us about that transition.
Okay, thank you, Wale, for having me today. Basically, I started my banking career sometime in 2001 with Citizens Bank. Then from there, I moved on to Fidelity Bank. Majority of my time in the bank was basically in oil and gas sector. And part of what drove me into the banking career was majorly to someday see myself as an MD of a bank. But because of the consolidation in the banking industry, coupled with that led to the recapitalization of 25 billion, that dream came to some sort of a shot. So I decided to now resign my banking job and start up my own oil and gas company. That came to the birth of Coos Oil and Gas.
All right. So your banking experience, of course, helped you. So you understood the industry to some extent, and then you made the transition. But what were those critical steps that you needed to get through to establish your business?
Yeah, basically what the banking industry, or rather working in the bank, did for me was to teach me about how to do things, how to structure things, how to monitor performance, how to drop a budget, watch your budget, how to look at your areas of concentration and taking from that. That helped me a lot in forming my own oil and gas company. So I would say yes, my experiences from the bank helped a lot in my ability to open up my own business and run it in a way that it would be profitable to me and also pay back to the public in the sense of my staff capacity and being able to feed for myself and feed for the families and people that are working in my organization. All
right, so tell us about Coos Oil before we get to the discussion around the restaurant. What are you doing and how far has that come?
Okay, so basically Coos Oil is basically involved in three major things. One is haulage, two is retail outlets in filling stations, then three is depot trading.
Right.
So basically what it means is that we trade in Lagos in depots, we trade in Port Harcourt in depots, and we trade in Calabar in depots. What it means is we buy products at large quantity, like in millions of liters, and sell back to retail filling station owners. Then we also use our trucks, our haulage trucks, to take these products from the depots where we have products to the stations where we sell these products. And basically our stations are concentrated in the eastern part of Nigeria.
Right.
So we use our haulage trucks to take these products to the stations. And we also have filling station owners who are not able to go to the depots to get the product themselves. We use our trucks to service them, so they're also our customers. Then finally, the stations we also make sure are not out of products. So basically we're into depot trading, we're into haulage, and we're into retail outlets.
All right. It sounds like a quite capital intensive business. So tell us about that. Do you get a financier? How were you able to establish the business, or was it gradual steps?
Yeah, well, basically, starting off, we were taking it baby step by step. We were using the much funding that we had at the time to do what we could at the time. That was why basically we started with the haulage trucks. From the profits we made out of a haulage truck, we were able to build, or rather, lease stations for the start.
Right.
Then from there, we were able to build enough profit to fund the station, put products in the station. But the bulk purchase part of it is where you would require funding because it involves millions of naira.
Of course.
So basically, we have couple of banks that, helped to fund the business. And again, my banking experience had to play part in that role because I used the contacts that I have in the banks. I had to make people believe in me.
Yeah.
Without collateral, we were able to attract funding to continue to do, what we know best how to do.
Yeah, of course, the markets have changed quite a bit since then. But help us appreciate the transition to the restaurant business because you're invested in something else. Are you taking your eye off the ball in terms of the oil and gas and you're seeing a new opportunity?
No, basically what it means is out of the oil and gas business and the successes that comes with it, there's a drive that drives every entrepreneur. And that's basically sometimes when you look at the people that had to depend on you to see that they get on with their daily lives, you will be driven and nudged on to move into things that are, to my way of looking at life, basically things that are workable.
Right.
Yeah, there's been a downturn in the oil prices. So
is this more of a diversification strategy for you?
Yes. So I was of the thinking that the natural next thing to do is to look for a business that would further help the Nigerian economy, that will further, empower people in the ways of employment, and that would also further make sure that our income streams is not eroded.
Yeah.
Then again, coupled with the fact that my mother used to be someone who owned a restaurant, and it was based out of the love that I have for my mother, and growing up as a child, that brought about the outcome of Elis. Right. Basically, I wanted to make sure that dream she had never dies. So I set up the business, first of all, to diversify my earnings. Secondly, to make sure that people are gainfully employed. Then thirdly, to make sure that dream she had never died. That's how Elis came about.
Okay, so there's a family connection there. We'll come to that later on. Of course, we're about to take a break now, and we always like our guests to make a musical selection. So what would you like?
For me, that would be Techno, Maria.
All right, we'll bring that to you. And of course, we'll take a break now and come back to continue our conversation with Okey Okatta.
Thank you.
Coming up on Mind Your Own Business.
When I started my oil and gas business in 2008, my first business was a loss. I put in 20 million naira.
And you lost it all?
I lost about 2 million naira. I lost 18 million naira.
Wow. Welcome back to Mind Your Own Business, brought to you by UBA, Africa's Global Bank. We're speaking to Okey Okatta. He is the CEO of Coos Oil and Gas and also the founder and CEO of Elis Restaurant and Lounge. Okay, thank you so much for staying with us. I want to talk about the value of passion, the need for passion, because very often we hear of people going into all types of businesses, and I do believe that staying power really comes with passion. From your experience, what can you say about the value of passion in the business?
Okay, if I take that back again, I would say basically I grew up from a family of where you have 7 guys and 3 women. So back in the days, my mother would always make sure that we all sit by the kitchen, especially the guys, so that they will know how to cook. So that transpired from cooking at home to having a restaurant, from where she also made extra income to support my father. So naturally, I drew from that as part of the things that drove my passion to open up the restaurant.
Yeah.
So basically, when my mother is late, and part of the things I thought to myself is, what are the things that I would do as a child, to keep her dream going on? And I thought about restaurant. Restaurant, basically everything that has to do with restaurant is sourced in Nigeria. It's not something you have to import. It's not like oil and gas. You have to wait for maybe petroleum products to come in from the importers before you can procure and take to your filling station.
Yeah.
The restaurant is about your ability to be able to mop up the funds to open up a good restaurant, your ability to get the right working, the right human resources that would deliver good services to the customers, and also the right, cooking team that will be able to make good food enough to satisfy the customers. So I thought about it. Since myself, I can cook myself, going from the lessons that I got from my mother, I thought to open up a restaurant where sometimes you might find me in the kitchen trying to make 1 or 2 dishes for a customer.
Thank God for mom's lessons.
Yes, thank God from me being able to stay by my mother while she cooks. So basically, all of that is what part of what kind of nudged me on to open up the restaurant. And today, I thank God I've been able to do that, and we are moving at a step where you would say we are making progress. And that's basically about the passion.
Right. Let's talk about the toughness that is needed as an entrepreneur, because there will always be challenges. You're in the oil and gas sector. Over the years, we've seen a lot of disruptions in that business, but you obviously had the staying power. Talk to us about the toughness that an entrepreneur needs to build to get through some of these challenges.
Yeah, well, basically, thinking about doing your own thing, you have to first of all be resilient. It takes you being that patient person. It takes you believing in yourself, first of all. It's never easy. Nobody ever said it's going to be easy. It's a struggle all the way. But at the long run, at the end of the day, you will look back and thank yourself for being that resilient person, for being that patient, for having that drive to be able to nudge yourself on to success.
Have there been any times you felt like, being tempted to quit? Has it reached that stage for you?
Oh, yes. Obviously, when I started my oil and gas business in 2008, my first business was a loss. I put in 20 million naira.
And you lost it all?
I lost about 2 million naira. I lost 18 million naira.
Wow.
So at the time, I was confused. I didn't know what to do. But
was this your money or other people's money?
It was my money.
Right.
But then again, I didn't have nobody to run to. There was nobody to listen to my borrowing abilities. I had to keep doing. I had to keep pushing. It took me selling products for other people to be able to mop up another funding to be able to start up all over again. So obviously, there will be ups and downs, but at the long run, you will look back and thank God for the resilience, for the grace to keep you going.
You're getting invested in the restaurant business, and let's talk about the potential that you see for that. Obviously, everyone talks about Nigeria's population. There's a lot of urbanization going on, so you're invested in a city. Your thoughts about how far that business can go?
Yeah, well, basically, looking at that, I will first of all say my location is something that we took our time to study. Basically, Lekki Axis of Lagos is developing, and most of us, a lot of us who live on those axes, usually would depend on going to VI to get an ambience that will require, to get the class of food that will require. So me and my team will put all that into consideration and thought that Agungi requires something more befitting. I mean, if you visited Elis, you would never think about going to anywhere in VI anymore. Again, coupled with the traffic that's building up, you would rather stay where you're comfortable than going through traffic to go to VI, where basically everybody wants to go to. So Elis is set up in a neighborhood where people live. And the way we run Elis has different rooms and different shades of furnishing. Basically, men are usually comfortable because you'll be handed over a remote to the ACs, to the TVs. You can change TVs and you can tune up the AC to the tune where you want it. So it's basically a way of keeping you at home while you're away from home.
Let's talk about the creativity, the innovation that you need to stay ahead in a business which is, of course, very competitive. Talk to us about that. Yeah,
basically, our plan towards that is to stay customer focused. And when I mean customer focused, our ideas, our dream is to make sure that every customer that walks into Elis would always repeat, and at some point find Elis as the only comfortable place to go to at any time the person thinks about eating or relaxation away from home. Basically, customer service it is, customer service it will always be, and customer service it is in Elis.
Let's talk about customer service. Many people say that's something really lacking in the culture of Nigerian entrepreneurs. It's something that can definitely differentiate you. Your experience there.
Talking about customer service and Elis basically starts from the point of customer being welcome to the point of customer being endowed by the taste of food. And again, what makes Elis stand out apart from customer service is what we do a la carte kind of cooking. What it intends is in Elis, we'll prep you, would ask you if, for instance, in your rice soup, do you like the local ogiri, or do you like dawa dawa, or do you like
so
flour?
It's that precise in terms of the choices that your customers can make.
So we kind of like prep you to understand what it is that makes good cooking for you. So you might be eating oha soup, and the next person next to you is eating oha soup, but your own oha soup is different from the next person's oha soup. In other words, what it practically means is that we try to get what it is that makes good cooking for you, and we'll put it into place for you.
Okay, we'll take a break right now, but before that, we'll allow you to make a music selection. So what would you like?
I would say, for the second time, I would say techno, and I would say wash.
All right, we'll bring that for you and continue our conversation with Okey Okatta right after this break.
Thank you.
Coming up on Mind Your Own Business.
If you have the mind of your own, if you ever think within you that you can stay, do your own thing and survive, usually don't be in a structured system more than 2 years. Basically, the structured environment is supposed to teach you how to do things. Everything else will add up itself,
Welcome back to Mind Your Own Business, brought to you by UBA, Africa's Global Bank. We're speaking to Okey Okatta. He's the CEO and founder of Coos Oil and Gas, and also Elis Restaurant and Lounge. Okay, thank you so much for staying with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we begin to round up, just some final thoughts on being an entrepreneur in Nigeria. And first of all, your thoughts about the environment. Everyone talking about the concerns around the oil price, what it's doing to the naira, the exchange rate, and you are a business owner in that environment. Do you get frightened? How do you react to that?
Basically, I think it's about life and what happens in life. There's always transition, and the only way to keep, being in existence, always have have your thinking focused, like what will propel you regardless of what's happening in the environment where you find yourself. And the next natural thing to do is to look at those things that would never go out of vogue. For me, oil and gas would always be there, but now oil and gas is down. What is the next thing that would happen? That's why we in Coos Oil would diversified into Elis, and we're even looking further to diversify into things that will help the natural environment. So for me, it would be a momentary thing. It's not a permanent thing, it's a temporal thing. So we'll still look at oil and gas coming back on again.
All right. So what would be your tips to entrepreneurs, people who want to get into business, who are perhaps in the position that you were several years ago, maybe working in a bank today? What would you say to them?
First and foremost, I would say knock fear out. I think that's the most thing that keeps...
Do you think that's something that hinders a lot of people?
Yes.
They can't move because they don't know what the future holds.
If without fear, most 70% of Nigerians want to do things on their own, but there's usually this fear of what would happen. The day I resigned my job from the bank, I didn't think twice. I only have this belief behind me that there would always be a way. But then again, I would also, advise any entrepreneur out there, before you get doing your own thing, especially if you're married and have families, always make sure you have a proper plan in place. You must have been able to think through what it is that your passion, what it is that you want to do, and make sure you see to the end of it before venturing into it. At the long run, also have God in place. With God in all things, everything will come to its normal place.
I just wanted that spiritual aspect, maybe we can just touch on that, because everyone thinks it's all about effort, right? But there is that element that you've been in business and you just see that it's not just you, there's just this grace, if you like.
Basically, I for one, I don't believe there's anything that's doable in life without God in it. So if you have your hope, if you have your total being in God, He will always see you through. So basically, it's about God on one hand, then it's about you making the proper plan, then it's about you pushing through your plan, and God will see you through. So far as it's a thing that you're doing with clarity and sense of purpose, you would always pull through.
All right, so that faith, of course, hopefully gets you through all the tough times. But speaking of tough times, just want to talk again about this oil and gas space. Your thoughts about the general environment. Are you hopeful that things would bounce back?
Oh yes, things will definitely bounce back. Oil and gas is a natural resource. There would always be need for it. Right now, it seems like things are not going as it should be because of one, issues are here and there. But then again, like every other thing in life, things would always revolve and bounce back.
When do you know? I'm coming back to your experience as a banker. When do you know it's time to make that move? What was the big consideration?
People always ask me this question, that I would say, if you have the mind of your own, if you ever think within you that you can stay, do your own thing and survive, usually don't be in a structured system more than 2 years.
But
basically, the structured environment is supposed to teach you how to do things. Everything else will add up itself, yeah.
But what about street smarts? Is that something you develop over time, or do you think it's a gift?
Street smartness is something that you can get involved in with your dealings on a daily basis. But at the same time, I would say some people are born with it. Like I would say I was born with it, basically. So it's something that
born with it, or a product of your environment, because it could have been your experience growing up.
Yeah, when you say product of environment, you would also say yes. Growing up, you pick it on, from people you interfere with, from the environment where you find yourself, from your friends, your peers growing up. So, but again, I must say that you need street smartness in everything you do in life, because that's what will propel you.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
We've been speaking to Okey Okatta, the founder and CEO of Coos Oil and Gas. He's also an entrepreneur that has set up a restaurant, Elis Restaurant and Lounge. And that's how we end our show for today. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, we'll continue to bring you stories of Nigerian entrepreneurs making a mark. Thank you very much for listening. Good morning.
Thank you.
For inquiries on Mind Your Own Business, please contact UBA Customer Fulfillment Center by calling these numbers 01-280-8822, 01-631-9822, and 0700-2255-822, facebook.com/UBA Group, twitter.com/UBA Group, live chat www.ubagroup.com, and you can also email cfc@ubagroup.com. Today's business tips from Okey Okatta: dedication, resilience, and focus. Mind Your Own Business is brought to you by UBA, Africa's global bank. Creative industries have emerged as one of the leading sectors in the economy.
Starting up a small recording studio in my dad's garage is all it took.
My story was more like experimenting with variety of flavors, baking cupcakes, brownies, donuts.
Breakthroughs are usually when you find a new way to do something.
Oh well, me and my sister set up a fashion label because we just couldn't find what we wanted in shops.
Breaking rules and great stories start with how you dare to do things differently.
So, how do you start and sustain a business?
All these and more as Africa's global bank, UBA, presents Mind Your Own Business, a radio program designed to initialize, educate, and motivate young entrepreneurs emerging as strong players in the local and global economy. Stay tuned for Mind Your Own Business, proudly brought to you by UBA, Africa's global bank.